that we've got a more modern car fleet, greener buildings, and we'll be rewarding companies that are early movers to getting things right. These are big steps forward and part of my plan for a prosperous Australia and for a sustainable Australia, not a big Australia.
Tony Abbott, the Liberals have churned through 3 leaders in 3 years. You were installed as leader by just 1 vote in the party room at the end of last year. You yourself have changed your position on things like work choices and on climate change, on the emissions trading scheme. And you describe yourself as a bit of a weather vane on this as well at one point. And you've also acknowledged that you don't always tell the gospel truth. So how can we be sure what you will do in government?
Because, David, I am giving people very, very clear commitments. Unlike the government, you won't get a lot of waffle. You won't get a whole lot of proposals that aren't fair income. I mean, on the boats, the former coalition government stopped the boats. The current government started the boats. It will take the coalition to stop the boats again. And if Julia was fair income about stopping the boats, she wouldn't be pursuing this fanciful deal with East Timor. She'd pick up the phone to the President of Nauru because he wants to reopen the Australian-built detention centre there, and he says that he can do it in a matter of weeks, not years. On the mining tax, well, my position is absolutely crystal clear. It's a bad tax. It will make our most successful industry uncompetitive. It will give us the highest mining tax rates in the world. Julia Gillard says that the big miners accept it. They don't accept it. They just think it's the best deal they can get from a bad government. And certainly the small miners who were locked out of this deal, they dislike it so much, they're about to start their ad campaign again. Now, on climate change, look, there are a lot of different views that people have on climate change and how best to deal with it, but we have a clear and definite policy, not a talk fest, but a clear and definite policy which can deliver the 5% greenhouse gas reduction target by 2020.
All right, let's get into some specifics from our panel of journalists. The first question comes from Chris Yorman.
A question to you both, Ms Gillard first though. Do you think that occasionally the courage to stand against the mob is a sign of a true leader? And if so, can you both give us one example of how you've demonstrated that in this campaign?
I think it's very important that when you lead, that you do show the courage of your convictions and you lead. And I think, Chris, I'm entitled to point to my track record and say I've delivered some reforms that were pretty hard, pretty disputed at the time. My school would probably be the biggest example the public would be aware of. It wasn't easy, staring down a strike by teachers to make sure we delivered the kind of transparency that parents want. But I thought it was the right thing to do, and I got it done. Perhaps less transparent to the Australian people, getting new occupational health and safety laws around the country. Businesses have been complaining for 30 years that they have different obligations in different states, and at the same time, not every individual worker had the same safety standards. Now, I've delivered that. 30 years, on the day we delivered it, there were some public servants that actually had tears in their eyes because they'd spent all of their working life waiting for someone to deliver that reform. Wasn't easy, but I got it done. And what I think that shows is if you believe in something passionately, then you will work through. But Chris, I don't make any apology for setting up processes that enable me to bring the Australian people with me. If we're going to have deep and lasting reforms, like reforms about climate change, can't be hostage to swings and roundabouts, to a new opposition leader, to a shattering of political consensus in Parliament House not far from where we are now. If we're going to have deep and lasting change, then I do want Australians to come with me, and that's what you've seen when I've announced our climate change policy, to give just one example. So leadership, it's about courage, it's about conviction, and it's about persuasion to get people to come with you.
Prime Minister, can I just pull you up though on the main example you cited there of your courage on my school? You did have overwhelming popular support for that. It was the unions that were the only ones opposed.
Well, it still requires, let me tell you, standing up in some not so easy times to get it done. And I would say this, delivering my school was actually so easy, given people have talked about transparency in this country, wanting to know what was happening at their local school for decades. Why hadn't it been done before? I got it done by showing the courage of my convictions and pushing through, and it's an important reform because for the first time ever in this country, school by school, we can see how those schools are going and we can check whether the kids in them are getting a great quality education. It was worth fighting for.
Mr Abbott, your response to that?
Well, thanks, David, and thanks, Chris. And if I may, the Prime Minister doesn't have a lot to talk about after 3 years in government. I think that anyone who watched my record in government would say that there were a whole host of issues that I drove, not all of them popular. And just to take one issue that I intend to drive now and in the future, let's take paid parental leave. This is not just a visionary social reform, but it is an important economic reform too. It will not only give women the real choice that they need and have been denied for too long, it will give families struggling to pay the mortgage the money that they need at a time when they are most vulnerable, and in the long run it will be of great help to Australian businesses. The intergenerational report of my friend and former colleague Peter Costello said that if we are to meet the demographic challenge, we need to address the 3 Ps. Population, paid parental leave helps. Productivity, again, paid parental leave helps very much because it keeps experienced workers connected to the workforce. And participation, what could be better constructed to ensure that we keep 50% of our talented workforce engaged in work. So I think paid parental leave is something that I have pursued just in the last few months. It hasn't always been popular. It's still not entirely accepted out there in the community. The Labor Party certainly doesn't accept it. They'll fight it because they think their rebadged baby bonus is enough. But I am very happy to stake my political future on this visionary social change and important economic reform.
All right, our next question comes from Laura Tingle.
I've got a question for you, Mr Abbott, and it goes to that point you've just been making about the intergenerational report. The coalition in government actually pursued big population policies, partly driven by that report, everything from the baby bonus through to luring overseas students here with a promise of permanent residency. It was this policy that produced the 300,000 peak in population in 2008 in net migration. Isn't your policy announcement today just really undoing the damage you caused on population policy in government?
Well, far from it, Laura. What we did today was levelled with the Australian people. For most of the first week of the campaign, the Prime Minister has been talking about population, but you're not fair income talking about population if you're not prepared to discuss immigration. Now, we know that immigration is very important to any discussion of population because 2/3 of our population increase is driven by immigration. What we had was a big increase in immigration numbers under the current government, from about 200,000 when the Howard government left office to 300,000 under the current government. This is unsustainable, and what I did today was announce that over the first term of an incoming coalition government, we would bring immigration down to 170,000 a year. Now, we don't want in any way to hurt the economy, so what I said today was that we would keep numbers in the employer-nominated visa categories because obviously we want expanding business, and that means giving businesses the people and the skills they need. But let me conclude where I begin, Laura. We have nominated what we think is the right number for Australia going forward, and I challenge the Prime Minister to do likewise.
But, Tony Abbott, just to pull you up on that, getting back to Laura's question, wasn't it the Howard government that set the laws in place